Hello, Crazy Vapor fans. Well, today we're going to start a little mini-series. I'm going to react to this book that I found in the library. They had a whole bookshelf full of books, as many as you could fit in a sack or a box for $1. They donated quite a bit more, but visit your local library and wanting to get knowledge out there. But anyway, I've seen this book and I was like, this might make a good series. It's called The Politically Correct Bedtime Stories by James Finn Garner. Now, I'm not sure if that's the actor James Garner or not, but all I've read is just the inside cover. I have not cracked this book open to even look at a word. And Politically Correct Bedtime Stories. Okay. Introduction. No, we don't need an introduction. Okay, we're going to go with the first story that we have here, called Little Red Riding Hood. There once was a young person named Red Riding Hood, who lived with her mother on the edge of a large wood. One day her mother asked her to take a basket of fresh fruit and mineral water to her grandmother's house. Not because this was women's work, mind you, but because the deed was generous and helped engender a feeling of community. Sorry, it's been a while since I've read out loud to an audience. Furthermore, her grandmother was not sick, did not have the Rona, but rather was in full physical and mental health and was fully capable of taking care of herself as a mature adult. So Red Riding Hood set off with her basket through the woods. Many people believed that the forest was a foreboding and dangerous place and never set foot in it. Red Riding Hood, however, was confident enough in her own budding sexuality, that such obvious Freudian imagery did not intimidate her. On the way to Grandma's house, Red Riding Hood was accosted by a wolf, who asked her what was in her basket. She replied, "Some healthful snacks for my grandmother, who was certainly capable of taking care of herself as a mature adult." The wolf said, "You know, my dear, it isn't safe for a little girl to walk through these woods alone." Red Riding Hood said, "I find your sexist remark offensive in the extreme, but I will ignore it because of your traditional status as an outcast from society, the stress of which has caused you to develop your own entirely valid worldview. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must be on my way." Red Riding Hood walked along the main path, but because his status outside society had freed him from slavish adherence to linear Western-style thought, the wolf knew a quicker route to Grandma's house. He burst into the house and ate Grandma. Is this a kid's story? Ate Grandma? An entirely valid course of action for a carnivore such as himself. Then, unhampered by rigid traditionalist notions of what was masculine or feminine, he put on Grandma's night clothes and crawled into bed. Red Riding Hood entered the cottage and said, "Grandma, I have brought you some fat-free, sodium-free snacks to salute you in your role of a wise and nurturing matriarch." From the bed, the wolf said softly, "Come closer, child, that I might see you." Red Riding Hood said, "Oh, I forgot you're as optically challenged as a bat." Okay, where was I? Optically challenged as a bat. "Grandma, what big eyes you have." They have seen so much and forgiven much, my dear. Oh, Grandma, what a big nose you have. Only relatively, of course, and certainly attractive in its own way. Hold on. Okay, let's get back to this book. Okay, where was we? Okay, Grandma, what a big nose you have, and only relatively, of course, and certainly attractive in its own way. It has smelled much and forgiven much, my dear. Grandma, what big teeth you have, the wolf said. I am happy with who I am and what I am, and he leaped out of bed. He grabbed Red Riding Hood in his claws, intent on devouring her. Red Riding Hood screamed, not out of alarm at the wolf's apparent tendency towards cross-dressing, but because of his willful invasion of her personal space. Her screams were heard by a passing woodchopper person, or log fuel technician, as he is preferred to be called. When he burst into the cottage, he saw the melee and tried to intervene. But as he raised his axe, Red Riding Hood and the wolf both stopped. "Then just what do you think you're doing?" asked Red Riding Hood. The woodchopper person blinked and tried to answer, but no words came to him. "Bursting in here like a Neanderthal, trusting your weapon to do your thinking for you," she exclaimed. "Sexist, speciest, how dare you assume that women and wolves can't solve their own problems without a man's help?" When she heard Red Riding Hood's impassioned speech, Grandma jumped out of the wolf's mouth, seized the woodchopper's axe, and cut his head off. After this ordeal, Red Riding Hood, Grandma, and the wolf felt a certain commonality of purpose. They decided to set up an alternative household based on mutual respect and cooperation, and they lived together in the woods happily ever after. Well, my reaction to that? Quite hilarious. Especially if you do not take it literally. And it just goes to show how far left our society has went. Seems to me we need to get back to the center. We were like a ping pong game. Ping pong game or pinball, whatever you want. There's a middle, there's two sides. We can veer one way or another way, and there's always got to be something to bring us in the back. We need a little bit of good for the evil to bring us back to center. We need some evil so we're not completely 100,000% good. We need to be kept in the middle. So, join me probably tomorrow or so. I will have, what's the next story? The next story is The Emperor's New Clothes. And I didn't even look to see what year this was made, written, published. Where'd it go? It's always in here. Permanently 94. So this is, I have to get some toes out. 26 years ago that was written. But somehow it just felt like it was meant for this week's mentality. People have known stuff for a long time. So the past can influence the future, as well as the future can influence the past. Y'all have a nice day.